Welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall. Elon Musk has been in regular contact with Russian President Vladimir Putin for the last 2 years. That's according to an exclusive report from the Wall Street Journal. The Journal saying that Musk and Putin have spoken repeatedly about personal matters, business, and geopolitics. SpaceX has called the Journal's report an incredibly misleading story based upon completely unsubstantiated claims from unnamed sources. Musk himself has not said anything directly. Retired Marine Intelligence Officer Hal Kempfer is standing by. And Hal, let's just start from the basics here. What is the Journal saying that the two talk about?
Well, Austin, it's interesting. The Journal is basically saying that they've been having conversations going back to 2022. Obviously, the timing of that it coincides with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So that kind of, obviously gets everybody's attention right off. Then the question is, well, what are they talking about? Well, as you mentioned, they're supposed to have it's not really clear, vague discussions on geopolitical issues. One of the specifics that really got everybody's attention was that it says Putin had asked Musk not to block Starlink from Taiwan, and that was as a favor to China. And of course, that got a lot of focus, and that goes to the Russian-Chinese, relationship or friendship that has no bounds, and of course, it certainly has a sort of scintillating quality, if you will, to whatever those conversations were. All right, so that's pretty big, and the NASA administrator has come out, expressed grave concern about this because of all the NASA contracts with SpaceX. Basically, right now, NASA is somewhat dependent on SpaceX to get astronauts into space and back. Boeing's little venture did not work out so well. So right now, the only way to get up there is either you fly on a Russian rocket, that sounds rather interesting, or you fly on SpaceX. And by the way, I should mention that NASA has ongoing discussions with Russia on a regular basis because there's still the agreement on how they get to the International Space Station and back, which seems kind of strange with everything else going on, but you will still see where, cosmonauts and astronauts fly up together and fly back together. It's been kind of an odd thing while all the war in Ukraine issue has been going on and everything else has been going on with sanctions and all the other issues on the international stage dealing with Russia. Now, SpaceX obviously has unique technology way ahead of everybody else in this regard. And they're pretty important. And Musk has admitted publicly that he has a top secret clearance. I recall that he did I think it was a talk show or radio show sometime back. I think he was doing a radio show. And they started smoking marijuana on the show. And
Joe Rogan.
That's it, Joe Rogan. And he apparently partook of the marijuana on the show. And that raised immediate questions about his eligibility to maintain a top secret clearance. Now, along with all of this, SpaceX does launches for the Department of Defense, for the Air Force on a variety of things, to include some very highly classified missions, putting things into space and retrieving things from space. So with that said, it's not just a NASA issue. There's also a Department of Defense issue. If you hold a top secret clearance as a contractor, if you're having discussions with a foreign leader or a foreign country, you're required to report those. Even though you may be a multinational business, you still have to talk about that stuff. By the way, if you're having a phone call with if Elon Musk is having a phone call with Vladimir Putin, I would think he's smart enough to realize there's a very, very good chance that the U.S. is listening in on that phone call. I mean, we do have the National Security Agency. So some of this I look at, I go, yeah, it's a concern. But the other part is, I don't know that this is really being accurately reported as to what's going on. I just can't believe he could do something like that. And there wasn't some discussion with the U.S. government. If nothing else, some agents walking into his office at some point saying, what are you doing? And kind of bringing that up.
It was fascinating to me. You brought up the Taiwan angle to this. And just to give a little more context, during one talk, Putin asked Musk not to activate his Starlink internet satellite system over Taiwan as a favor for Chinese President Xi Jinping. That sounds interesting to me, Hal, given that the Ukrainians have been using Starlink in their fight against Russia. Wouldn't it be easy to assume that Putin would request that to stop too?
Well, one would assume, but that never came up.
Right.
And there was a dialogue on that. At one point, Musk had talked about stopping Starlink from being used for military purposes in Ukraine. How they would have accomplished that, I have yet to quite figure out. But that was something that had been an active discussion, and I think that Musk was trying to remove himself from being seen as part of this thing. And there could have been some discussions where Russia, maybe not Putin himself, but they could have been quietly threatening SpaceX and the Starlink system. And you may recall some time back there was discussion of the Russians launching a nuclear weapon or a nuclear device into space that would wipe out a lot of satellite communications. And of course, Starlink was one of the first things that was discussed in that scenario. So there's a whole lot more to the backdrop of what's going on here. And I'm not ruling out that he may have a dialogue. I mean, he is, first off, he's the richest man in the world, but also he has a pretty vast global empire of businesses and interests and supply chains that go into getting certain materials. And there are some things that raw materials that probably originally sourced from Russia, because I know Russia has some minerals and things like that really the supply chain is somewhat still dependent on, despite everything else going on. There aren't great alternate sources for that. So there may be something there, but I just find it rather incredulous that there wasn't some discussion with one part of the government, probably Department of Defense, saying, hey, look, you need to know about this, that I'm having these discussions. Now, with that said, I have my own business. I do government consulting. I work with various different federal agencies, Department of Defense, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security. And I have had times where you're telling one security group, hey, this is what we're doing, or this is what's going on. And another security group is completely oblivious to what's being done. And it could have been that they were, and I'm not saying this is what happened. It's just, I hate to say it, it's just human behavior, bureaucratic behavior, that it could have been they thought they were doing the reporting correctly with one part of the government, and NASA was maybe left out of that discussion, or they thought NASA was included in that discussion and they weren't in that discussion. And maybe that's why NASA at this point is saying this. Now, I'm going to put another point out too. This has been going on for what, 2.5 years or something like that. This only becomes an issue, a week and a half before the election, when Elon Musk is out there stumping for one of the candidates. I find the timing of this rather interesting, shall we say, and I'll leave it at that. And you may recall that in California, that the California Coastal Commission has put out an edict curtailing SpaceX launches, and they literally cited that they didn't like what Musk was saying on his platform X, formerly what used to be called Twitter. And so I find some of this stuff has a partisan context to it, maybe, and I'll leave it at that. The timing of it just seems very strange to me. But as a federal contractor or somebody who I had my clearance was held, and I would deal with multiple organizations and stuff like that. I could see a little bit of a bureaucratic fumble that maybe led to this, where certain officials thought that this was going on and he was hiding it, and it could have been that they were being very transparent. By the way, I should point out something. He owns Tesla, obviously, and Tesla does a huge amount of manufacturing over in China. So I would be surprised if he's not having conversations with Xi on occasion. That would seem to make sense to me. I think when he goes to China, I want to say off the top of my head, I think he's met with Xi more than once. So that would, I just want to say that, that's the nature of global business.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that for now, Hal. Thanks.